And we are back, and joining us now is Jayson Eверт, who is a nationally known author and speaker on chastity. And Jason, it's great to have you here with us.
Thank you for having me on.
I know you we were just talking about all your travels, and I know you've been here a lot to this area, but maybe if you can talk to us about, you know, speaking to teens, to families, and maybe give us a sense of the church here today and about chastity and getting the message out to everybody.
Yeah, well, the teens are more receptive than most people would imagine. When I'm driving to the airport, the shuttle driver from the parking lot will say, "So where are you going?" I'm going to speak some high school." "Oh, about what?" "Oh, abstinence." "Oh, good luck, man." You know, they think they're going to throw tomatoes at me, but after over a decade of speaking to probably over 1 million teenagers, we haven't had one disruptive audience. And we've been to correctional facilities and inner city schools, and the reaction of the kids, it's like watching ants on a birthday cake. I mean, they're all over this. They've never heard it before, that this is good news. It's not a bunch of rules so you don't go to hell. It's been letting you be liberated to actually love for the right reasons. So the teens, we find, are very receptive. There's good news going on. It's not all bad stuff. The majority of high school kids now are virgins. Teen sexual activity rates have been dropping consistently for about 15 to 20 years. So there really is good news, but it's not often portrayed, unfortunately, in the media.
Now, was I correct in the beginning when I said that it's kind of a misunderstood teaching of the church, or, you know, way that we live our lives, chastity, that people think it's this terribly repressive thing?
Oh, it is. It absolutely is. I remember when my wife and I were engaged, we got a phone call from England, from the BBC. They wanted to do a documentary TV show on our engagement, because apparently they had heard from England that there was an American couple that wasn't cohabiting and sleeping together before marriage, so they wanted to do a show on it. So they came over and did the interview and everything, and the show is called Anna in Wonderland, and it's about a woman who visits different bizarre cultures around the world and reports on them. And the show after ours apparently was on vampires. She's done shows on prostitutes, female professional wrestlers, psychics, and people who believe they have animals living inside of them. And of course, my wife and I. But that gives you a snapshot of how bizarre the world. Why would you want to repress this natural, healthy, normal thing? That's so unhealthy. That's so neurotic. And they don't understand that chastity is not the elimination of sexual desire. What it is the perfection of it. That where you place love above the disordered desire just to lust and to use. And so if you really understand the church's teachings for what it is, it's not repressive, it's liberating.
And talk about that too, just you know, just mentioning that television show and stuff, but the secular culture and the many shows that these kids are exposed to, you know, that they geared towards younger people supposedly, but well, how much of an obstacle is that for kids to overcome and to sort of get through that to them?
Yeah, I mean, the more of this television and music they listen to, the more likely they are to become desensitized over time, of thinking, well, isn't everybody going to bed with everybody? And they start to compare themselves to people who are worse than they are. And so they think, well, I'm pretty good compared to them. I mean, look what they're doing. But we can't. If we want to be close to God, we can't compare ourselves to people who are worse than ourselves. We should compare ourselves to the saints. And that makes our faults come to the surface more easily so Christ can purify them. And so what I encourage the young people to do is just to stay away from the pollution of the reading these kinds of magazines and TV shows. I was on the airplane and I looked, a few seats next to me was a woman reading a Cosmopolitan magazine. And I just felt so bad for her, because what that's doing to her concept of love and relationships, it came to my mind immediately. I thought of the image of a person who wants healthy lungs, putting their mouth around the muffler of a car and just breathing that in. That's what it does to your soul and your concepts of love. So I think for the young people today, we need to encourage them to purge themselves of all that, the filth, and focus their attention on godly things. Read good books, hang out with good friends. If they can find good friends, get in a good youth group, purity is going to be a lot more possible for them.
I like that image of the tailpipe on
We
the
don't
car.
recommend that.
I've got to remember that one.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, a lot of our viewers know we were present at the National Catholic Youth Convention and conference and celebration, whatever it was. I can't think of the exact name, in Kansas City, but I know you were there too. And what kind of an experience was that for you?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was a National Catholic Youth Conference, and what we had are 22,000 teenagers from around the country coming to a weekend to celebrate Christ and their faith. And if you ask most people, what do you think 22,000 kids were up to, you know, on a Saturday night? Well, what they were doing, Eucharistic adoration, Mass. We had a chastity talk. 22,000 teenagers gave a standing ovation to a chastity talk. And I think the older generation needs to hear this, that the young people are thirsting for this message. They're not going to be just shut you down. And they might roll their eyes when you first start talking, but when you really convey the truth and the beauty of human sexuality to them, it's something they've never heard before. And someone said to me, it's terrible how the culture glorifies sex. I thought, no, they don't. The culture doesn't glorify sex. It's the church that glorifies sex. It's only in the church's teachings of human sexuality that see the glory of God's plan. The problem isn't the world glorifying it. The problem is the world just debasing it, so you don't see the full beauty of it. And so our job isn't so much scare tactics and guilt trips. It's just look at the beauty of what God has created. And when you see that beauty, it's alluring.
I know you've written a lot of things, Jason, as well, and maybe if you could talk about that. I know you have a book, a prayer for teens, and how essential prayer is, you know, to sort of capture this and sort of, you know, enliven it in people's lives.
Yeah, we did write a prayer book. It's called Pure Faith. It's a prayer book for teens, and morning prayers, evening prayers, how to get ready for confession or mass, or prayers for your family or studies. And the reason I wrote it is something Mother Teresa said. She said, purity is the fruit of prayer. And so how can I call people to live a pure life without showing them, well, this is how it is made possible, only through grace. You need that relationship with Christ, and then it becomes possible. So that was one of the books that we came out with some time ago.
I can't help but notice, Jason, you're wearing the miraculous medal,
I am.
And I know that has the words, I am the Immaculate Conception, around the image of the Blessed Virgin Mary. How does Mary, whose Immaculate Conception we honor in the church today, how does her example prove to be very helpful for us in terms of living chaste lives?
Well, to me, she's everything. I mean, I've consecrated myself, my family, my marriage, my ministry, my everything to her, just putting everything in her hands so that she might present us to Christ. And today on the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, you know, Our Lady was purified from all sins so that she might be an appropriate dwelling place for God. Likewise, if we want Christ within us, we should strive to purify our own selves, to make ourselves a little Nazareth, a little Bethlehem, a little version of the Virgin Mary, that Christ would come into us. And so we can look to her not only for her example, but for her intercession. I think so often as Catholics, you know, we look at the statues as we drive by church. Oh, there's a statue of Mary. And you fail to think, well, she's right now in heaven just waiting to hear your petitions. I mean, you could imagine if the Virgin Mary appeared to you right now and said, I'm the Immaculate Conception. I stand before the throne of God. Would you like me to ask my son anything for you? You would, oh, I want this, and my aunt has cancer, and I want this, and I want that. Just to know she's always there, driving to work, pull out your rosary, but take it off the rear view mirror and put it in your hands. Pray it. And so I think it's so important that if you want to persevere in a pure life, especially as a man, with today's culture, how it bombards us with just a messed up idea of womanhood, we need our idea of womanhood restored to the proper place. And the Virgin Mary is the ideal person to do that. And with her, St. Joseph, the guardian of virgins.
I couldn't help but think at Mass today and listening to the Gospel, you know, I'm sure people are watching you right now and have in the past and will and say, oh, that's, you know, those are nice words, Jason, but I mean, it's really not possible. Come on, you know, a real life and everything. But in the words of the Gospel today, with God, all things are possible. With God, nothing is impossible.
Absolutely. I mean, with faith, as you said, anything is possible. We need to look even at the young people, for example, on this stuff. There was a young blessed, I believe, Jose Maria Sanchez, as I think his name is, a 13 or 14-year-old kid from Mexico. And there was a persecution of Catholicism taking place. And they told him, we're going to kill you if you don't renounce your faith. And he wouldn't. And so they beat him up a little bit. He wouldn't renounce the faith. So they shaved the skin off of the bottom of his feet. And they made him walk through the gravel, through the whole town, as they beat him as they walked through town, just mocking him. And they told him, you know, we're going to kill you. What do you want us to tell your parents, you know, when you're dead? And he said, well, tell them I'll see them in heaven one day. And he wouldn't give up. They took him somewhere, and they just shot him, and he just held out his arms, long live Christ the King. And as he died, he drew a cross in the ground with his own blood and then kissed it before he passed away. 13, 14 years old. And you're telling me that a teenager today can't just turn off the MTV and pray a rosary, live a pure life? They can do it. You know, if you have that relationship with Christ, which must come first, it becomes possible. But the beauty of purity is it also paves the way for a relationship with God. Blessed are the pure in heart, they shall see God. It's going to be a lot easier to see God if you can purge your life of all these things that pollute your vision of Him.
If people want to find out, Jason, where are you going to be, all the information about your books and things like that, where would they go?
We have a website, real easy to remember, Chastity.com. We were blessed enough to get that domain name. We were able to get it from the previous owners, which was a satanic comic book company. And I don't even want to get into this stuff was in there, but we've made some minor improvements to the site since taking on the domain name. And so we've got all kinds of videos. You can book presentations. We've got dozens of books and CDs and DVDs, hundreds of questions and answers answers. Just we want to be an all-around resource for people who want to live a pure life. They can get all the things they need there at chastity.com.
Awesome. Great.
Jason Evert has a book which takes the theology of the body and applies it to the lives of teenagers. And that's another book that you can pick up at chastity.com, a great resource for young people and for those who teach them, and parents too.
Well, we thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And we'll just ask your listeners for our prayers
Sure.
for all the students we ever speak to on chastity.
Yeah. And good luck and continued success with your work.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break here. We're going to be back in just a moment with more of This Is the Day.